hardcore boxing fans out there, how are you doing? Big Porky here, the voice of hardcore boxing, and I hope you've subscribed as well, or I'll be coming to pay you a visit.
Hello boxing fans out there, how are you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, biggest gob in sport. Today I'm joined by Julian. We say the things nobody dare say. Thanks for liking and subscribing. How are you doing, Jules?
I'm good, mate. Good. Busy all day, but I'm all right.
Yeah, I've only just left factory, mate, 9 o'clock at night. I was going to stay there, but until Spencer Brown were referring to me as a bedroom blogger.
All right.
I thought I'd come home and just jump on big bed, like you do after you've been at work since 6 a.m. I was willing to stay while 11, get in about half 11 for a big shifting, but I thought I'd come home early and treat them to a bedroom blog.
Well, you're allowed to do whatever you want, mate. An Englishman's home is his castle. You want to do your interviews from bed or from the factory or from your back garden. Ultimately, as long as you're speaking the truth, who cares where you are?
Does anybody speak the truth in boxing at the moment, Julian?
Very, very few people, and I guess the ones who do speak the truth are on the outside looking in, aren't they?
Yeah. Obviously, the big talk is the Saudi thing, blah, blah, blah. But Fury's 56-minute IFL interview, 59 swear words. Sorry, 42 swear words, 59 times he mentioned money. So he mentioning money more than one time every minute.
I mean...
But it's not about money. It's not about money, is he, Tyson? He's not about money.
I've got no issue with anybody swearing or doing whatever. He's a fighter. He's in fight week. He'll be switching over to that sullen mood, and he'll be getting to the fight zone. Absolutely fine.
Not making weight though, is he?
But exactly, well, he's not making weight. But what I struggle with, and I think you know this really, and this isn't a character assassination before anybody like jumps on me, is when people always talk about themselves as being God-fearing men and the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and all that kind of stuff. Just be consistent with how you behave. You know, you're a mental health ambassador. Be consistent how you behave. Be consistent.
Is he a mental health ambassador? Is he a mental health ambassador?
Well, I don't know if he's an official one or if he's just...
saying he is.
Yeah, give himself that title. I actually couldn't answer that. I don't know. But for me, it's just the inconsistencies that I struggle with. Yes, heavyweight champion of the world's going to swear. Heavyweight champion of the world's in a mood where he wants to knock someone clean out. Absolutely. But we just see inconsistencies. You see, and this might be the bipolar. You see one Tyson interview and then you see another one. And you're almost like seeing different people. But
is he an actor or is he really like that?
Well, do you know what?
Actors, they're chameleons, aren't they?
This is what I've noticed about Tyson.
Chameleons.
He starts going down this righteous preaching side about be nice to people, be kind. And then he remembers pretty much that he isn't nice to many people and he isn't kind to many people. And then he goes, you see, because I've said things in the past that I'm not proud of, and I've done things in the past I'm not ashamed of. And he almost backtracks and remembers that effectively it's just words, it's bluster, that nobody said the heavyweight champion of the world had to be a saint, had to be a role model, but it's the way they portray themselves as God-fearing, good men, Christian men, and then their actions just, that's why I never mention religion. I don't do the religious thing. I have a lot of respect for anybody who believes in God, and I totally respect that. That's up to people. It's never a discussion that I get into with anybody. But you often find people who preach about religion, they never actually live to the 10 Commandments. For Christians, for example, do they? You know, thou shalt not commit adultery. And in the next breath, I've slept with 500 women while I'm married. Just an example of the sheer hypocrisy. Just be a fighter, just be a heavyweight champion, and just stop talking about mental health and then calling someone an ugly, gappy-toothed, whatever, a dosser, and ripping into a guy's appearance. I just don't like all that stuff. I much prefer the pre-social media days when, you know, fighters generally didn't say too much. I know Ali did, and often Ali, people forget, people say, well, Ali got away with it. Ali was actually hated in his time. It was only much later on in his career that people became fond of him and understood a lot of the time it was done with good humour. And I've gone off track slightly, but you know what I'm saying, don't you? It's just that it's that preaching. It's the preaching what I just don't care for. I like watching Tyson Fury fight. I've always said it. I've said, and I'm not just saying this, you can ask anybody when I was on Facebook. I said Tyson Fury be heavyweight champion of the world after his second fight. I saw his second fight in Wigan. He knocked a German guy out. Good record, actually. Did him in two, 3 rounds. And I said, and people used to laugh at me when he got the decision against John McDermott. I said, he's got the tools to be heavyweight champion of the world. People used to laugh at me. So I'm not a hater, but I just hate the walking on water, the greatest of all time. These tags that people give them. You're a really good fighter, Tyson. You're the best heavyweight in the world. But I just don't buy all the other stuff. I don't buy the money's not important, but I don't want to fight in Britain because I want to get 5 times as much fighting in Saudi. Just say, I want as much money as I can get from my family, for my heritage, for my estate, for my ancestors, for my kids. Absolutely fine. But don't then go out and buy a banger for 500 quid and say, this is a car I drive every single day. And then the next time we see you, you're in a top of the range 300 grand Ferrari. I just hate, listen, this is not a dig at Tyson, Russell. How many times have I been on here and how many times we'll talk about consistency and people not being hypocrites? Just be real. You live a lifestyle we'd all love to live. Absolutely. But come on, you're not a saint. You very rarely act in a way that's consistent with the message that you talk about when you talk about mental health. And you're a damn good fighter who makes a shitload of money, and good on you. That's absolutely fine. But come on, let's start dropping some of this stuff now. This charity.
What I'd like to see drop.
Giving purses to charity. Come on.
I want to see the mental health thing drop now because it's a load of rubbish. If it weren't a load of rubbish, Mick Hennessy, right, wouldn't have had to sign a disclosure thing where he couldn't speak about their court case because he paid Mick Hennessy $1.5 million to settle out of court. Okay. Mr. Mental Health, because Mick Hennessy said, that's a load of bollocks. I'll see you in court and I'll prove it. He settled out of court and Mick's not allowed to talk about it, right? There you go. Mental health, a load of shit. It was the only thing they could come out with to get off with the drug knackers. So that's a load of shit, but he's a masterful boxer and the best heavyweight in the world. The rest is shit.
Yeah. Do you know what? There are times I watch him and I'm captivated by his personality. Yeah. There are times you catch him and you're like, you know what? This is such a deep guy and he speaks a lot of sense. And then there's other times he just talks utter
rubbish.
And you know it's a lie. You know it's just a lie. And it's
because his lips are moving.
Yeah, and it's that. It's just like, listen, these guys are tough men. He's a traveller. He's from tough stock. Okay. He's not going to be eloquent. He's not going to drop something on his foot and say, oh dear, that hurt. You know, he's a man, he's a fearsome fighting man. But it's just, I don't know if I blame social media and then the media will build them up to knock them down.
Well, look at that thumbnail there, right? Yeah. Gareth A. Davis. Well, he jumped on Tyson's bandwagon when he come back when he was 27 stone 2. Although legend has it, he's 31 stone. I read in GQ magazine today. We're 31.
Has it gone up again?
31 now, but it was 27-2. I actually saw the spreadsheets on it. 27 stone 2 down to what did he get to 18-2? So he's took 9 off, hasn't he? Well, Tyson, I lost 19 stone 9. You want to talk about weight loss? Come and speak to Big P. Not 9 stone, 19 kid plus nearly 20.
Yeah, my nephew lost about 11.5 stone as well. Yeah.
Who did?
My nephew, it was like 26.5 stone. It was absolutely huge.
And I've got a 6-pack.
He dropped some serious weight.
And I've got a 6-pack and no saggy skin. Well, it's a 4-pack now. But it's been an hard slog. But listen, he's a masterful boxer. But the Gad went into bat for him. And have just thrown him away like rubbish.
The Gad's been, the Gad gets a lot of stick, right? What has he actually done wrong?
Well, he sat there, didn't he, while Simon Jordan were getting stuck into him. I've actually gone back on the video. There were jug ears,
Right.
Jordan and him. And what happens is how they work it with their production, because I've heard back. I'm not going to say off, but they speak individually and they give them, like, they'll say, right, 3 minutes on this. And they have a thing, they have somebody stood behind them and they'll stick their hand up or they'll do it through their ear and say, right, that's it. No, cut it off now. And they'll pass it on for each of them. So if they're doing a 10-minute thing, 3 of them will get 3 minutes each. It's 1 minute to intro and end it, kind of thing. Now, he said his bit, but sat silent, according to Tyson, while Jordan got stuck into him, didn't he? But he's working for TalkSport. He just can't butt into Jordan and go, oh, hang on a minute, that's my pal. He's my pal. He can't do a Dennis. He's my pal. Can he?
I caught the Gareth A. Davis being interviewed yesterday, and someone was asking him about, what TalkSport being banned, and the guy looked quite shook up. You could see he was really carefully choosing his words and just almost
mate, I'm not being funny. I've heard back off 2 people now. Apparently, are inconsolable overnight after it all come out.
Well, if anybody, the Gareth A. Davis has had so much stick for being pro Tyson and anti
No, they've thrown him away like rubbish, and he's not the only one. I'm not going into detail about the rest of them, but listen, there's only one man running that show there, and that's the father. If the father don't like you, you're gone. If you're not a gypsy, you'll be gone, but not yet until we get our use out of you. Watch it unfold.
Well, this is the thing. So Gareth A. Davis, we give him a bit of stick. We call him out when we call him out. But as you've just said, television, media, broadcasting, they give a balanced view. Now, Gareth A. Davis is not against the Ngannou fight. He's stated that. He said it's a huge event, and he's been pretty consistent in what he's said. But just because Simon Jordan might have a different point of view, then Gareth A. Davis can't shoot him down every 30 seconds saying, I know, Tyson, actually, that's not true. We've got to hear about a balanced argument. As a viewer, as a listener, you want to see a balanced argument. That's what you want. That's the idea, isn't it, of the broadcast? And it's also professional and courteous and polite to let people speak and to listen. And this is the problem with the Furies. What they're now saying is, John Fury says the same thing, Tyson says the same thing. This is my opinion, and if you don't like it, F off. But they're also saying people speak opinions, they don't speak facts. So if you don't speak opinions, we don't want to hear it. They want to hear their opinion on everything, but they don't want to hear anyone else's opinion. We only want to hear facts. But when you give them facts, no one dares say anything to them, and people get shut down. Like a fact is when he fought thingamajig, Derek Chisora, he just said, I want to be the first heavyweight champion to have 2 trilogies. Well, we all know that Ali was the first to have 2
trilogies. But none of them jumped on him, did they? None of that talk.
No one jumped on him, and Holyfield had 2 trilogies, and no one jumped on him, and no one corrected him. And they don't do that because they don't. So they don't even present facts. And when they present an opinion, they're banned from going all the way over to Saudi. And then
with Matchroom.
You can't say anything. It's like AFL and Matchroom, exactly. And now it's like what's the bloody kid called? Parsons Buttons or whatever he's called.
Listen, it's called communism, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fascism.
Is that what it is? So we're
fascism. If you don't adhere to, it's been dictatorial. It's literally saying, I'm God. If you don't agree with me, you're done. Get away from me. And do you know what? The one thing I do want to bring up, Russell, and I'll get shot down by your guys, right? You know me. I watch the UFC. I watch MMA. Boxing's always been my sport. Yeah, so I'm pro boxing. But what I want to know, and Radio Raheem has just asked Tyson Fury the exact same thing. Why don't you fight him in a cage? You're the baddest man on the planet, right? Yeah. You're devastating, you're ruthless, you're brutal. You're the baddest man on the planet. Why don't you? You're a fighting man who was going to fight Anthony Joshua, and you for free. Remember, I'm going to fight Anthony Joshua.
I'm David Price.
I'm going to fight David Price for free, and he said I'll fight Usyk for free. Then he said I want 500 million. But you want to prove what I want to know is when is one of He's an elite champion who's got a big mouth. I'm not talking about a Canelo, not or other guys who aren't, but he's saying the John Joneses and the Francis Ngannous, I'll smash them to pieces. Well, have them a boxing match under Queensberry rules,
Yeah.
and then step into the cage and see how bad
Like
you
James
are.
Toney did and Riddick Bowe.
Yeah, and Radio Raheem said exactly the same thing. He's just said, you know, I'm not talking about a shot fight. I'm talking about a heavyweight champion of the world who's in his prime. Why don't you represent boxing? Why don't you represent all those people who say you're the greatest fighter who's ever lived? And why don't you step into the octagon and fight one of these leading heavyweights in the cage? Why not? You've got enough money. You wouldn't lose your belts. If you're so bad, why don't you do that? Why are you getting a guy to come over? We know why, it's for money. But why are you getting a guy to come over and cross over into boxing who we can see, we knew he wouldn't be much cop as a boxer, but we can see that with the way he throws his shots and the way he's hitting the pads.
Would Nick Manners do Ngannou now with gloves on?
Oh yeah, honestly, he's terrible. People will turn around and say, McGowan, you talk garbage, he's hit this punch machine, he's devastating, he's scored knockouts in the UFC with his hands, etc., etc. I followed the UFC and MMA for long enough, from when its inception in '93 all the way through. My son's obsessed in it. I've got a good friend who trains a really good MMA kid who we talk about this stuff all the time. And I just want to know why Tyson Fury, I mean, Radio Raheem, if you watch it, it's a 2.5-minute interview where he gate crashes Warren and Bob Arum chatting. And then Radio Raheem says twice, he says, Ngannou says, you know, why are you just having the boxing match? Why don't you fight him in the cage? And he asks him twice, and he just shuts it down. Oh, forget about the cage nonsense. I'm going to smash him to bits, the Gypsy King style. And he doesn't even want to entertain the conversation.
Overpowered him. Stood over him, intimidated him like the rest of them.
Yeah, and why doesn't it? You know, people will say, "Don't."
Yeah,
why,
but he did it half-heartedly, did he? Radio Raheem. He's a weapon anyway. Yeah, he's a whopper.
Yeah, but
He's a whopper.
Look, all right, he didn't do his legs any good. But Ali fought Antonio Inoki, didn't he? The shoot fighter, the wrestler. I just think it's when you're saying I'm the best fighter on the planet. Well, then have a fight with another guy. And you know, your dad said he was 100-0, and they say he'd have been great in the UFC. Did John Fury's words, not me. I'd have been great in the UFC because all my fights, they weren't straighteners. Most of them were all in. So that's obviously, you know, we talk about 10
Dad didn't fight Mickey Vio. Spencer Brown made that fight, May 28th, a few years ago. The posters were all done. What happened to that one, Spencer?
And this is, but no one's allowed to ask anything, which is, people say you're bitter, people say you talk crap. You and I, well, I certainly have said this so many times. Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight of his generation. Okay, that's my view. That's my view. Whether I think he's got the legacy or not, that's not really. But I think he's the best heavyweight of his generation. He's the best heavyweight in the world. I said multiple times on the way up, he'd be the heavyweight champion of the world. So I'm not ever knocking Tyson Fury, the fighter. He's got balls like a rhino. You've got to nail him to the floor to beat him. But let's see how big your balls really are. And Ngannou's coming over to fight you. You go over in the cage and fight Ngannou or John Jones.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, you are the baddest then.
He'd get tied up. He'd get absolutely dismantled.
So won't that happen then?
He'd be savage. He'd get savage. He'd get destroyed, mate. And that's why. And there's an element of I understand why they're doing the fight. No one's putting a gun to anyone's head, but I can't respect the fight. No. I've got no issue with a Floyd Mayweather right at the end of his career, all the way at the end of his career, who's beat everybody and done everything, proved himself to be one of the absolute greats. Whatever you think about Floyd, one of the greatest fighters of all time. And right at the end of the career, he's probably got a bucket list of things he wants to do, like the Conor McGregor, crazy money, the exhibitions he's had. And Floyd can do what he wants because Floyd's standard in boxing is absolutely beyond doubt. But Tyson Fury, there are fighters out there who I think he'd beat anybody. But there are fights out there and fights out there and fighters who we want to see him face. Do Ngannou or whoever's the UFC equivalent in 5 years' time. Do it then. Fight him in a cage, fight him in a ring, whatever. But when you've not boxed for 9-10 months, and that's your choice of opponent, it shows what you think about legacy. It shows what you think. You talk about being historians, you and your father, and they do know heavyweight boxing when you listen to them. And why don't you think about those great fighters like Ali and Marciano and Joe Louis? And they didn't duck anybody, mate. They didn't duck anyone. Not saying Tyson's ducking anybody, but he's not been fighting the elite, has he, for the last 2.5 years?
Well, when you go through his CV, Cunningham, right?
Cruiserweight, yeah.
Wilder twice and Blad. You can pick bones out of all them, apart from Wilder. Like I say, we're knocking everybody out. He even dropped Fury 4 times.
Yeah, the Wilder wins stand up. They're very, very good wins.
Very good. Vladimir, Fox Vladimir, didn't he? He had the style to beat.
He hadn't been beat for 10 years. He went to Germany and he beat Vladimir in a big upset. Brilliant, Tyson. See, we're giving him his credit, aren't we? We're not knocking. This is the problem with it.
You can't have 4 wins and say you're a GOAT.
No, and this is the problem with the Tyson fanatics, isn't it? We're being pretty objective. He's the best of his generation. He's the best in the world. He's had 2 fantastic wins when he was an underdog. We can't knock him for doing that, but you have to travel anyway. If you're the challenger and you want that belt, you got to travel. But no one's knocking what Tyson's achieved in a ring. But a lot of this stuff just doesn't sit well with me. The hypocrisy, are we going to get Usyk the 23rd of December? Does anybody really believe that?
Come
on, behave.
Well, look, Aram's just been interviewed and he was asked about it, and he went talking about something else, and then Warren butted in. So if these YouTubers are going to ask it, and then they take him down another avenue, and they can say, well, fair enough then, Ngannou is a tough fighter, but Spencer Brown says it's done for 23rd of December. Is it on, Bob? We know Ngannou's tough, and is it this punch machine and scored 1140 odd or something? Whatever, well done. But can he land the punch? Look, Eddie Hall, right, when he went to Peter Fury's gym, he was hitting that bag, right? This is the true story. Like George Foreman in that When We Were Kings, he was pouring dints in it. Right. And he jumped out at ropes after Huey landed a couple of jabs on him. Jabs. He jumped through the ropes.
This punch machine, I don't buy it, by the way, and I'll tell you why. Because I know he's obviously got reasonably heavy hands in Ngannou, but you see fighters in the UFC, once they've got those little 4-ounce rock hard gloves on, you don't have to hit someone with crazy power to spark them, because that just does the damage. It's a different game.
Does the damage, doesn't it?
Yeah, different game completely. So what I can tell you with my eye, and people think what they want, it's a trained eye. I've been around boxing long enough.
Hey Mercer, what did you do with them 4-ounce gloves onto that UFC guy?
Oh yeah, the big guy. He toppled him, didn't he? And I'm telling you now, I don't care what anybody says. Ngannou is not a massive puncher. I don't care what anybody says. It's all hype. I don't believe they put the scores he got. I've not seen it. I don't want to see it. I know a guy on a bag, and I know a guy on the pads who is not a huge puncher. I'm not saying he can't hit. He's got a hell of a physique on him. He's not a huge puncher. He punches harder than Wilder, and Anthony Joshua punch so much harder than him. It's untrue. I've seen the guy on the bag and I've seen the guy on the pads. His technique is pretty poor. Clearly, he can hit a little bit. But if you can hit a little bit in the UFC at striking, you do very, very well until you get taken to the ground. And Ngannou's not a great puncher, mate. It's all hype. It's all rubbish to build the fight. And I don't care what machine he's hit, because unless Wilder's hit the same machine and it's been calibrated to exactly the same, measurements, I don't believe it. I don't believe he hits harder than Anthony Joshua. I don't believe he hits hard anywhere near as hard as Wilder. It's just, listen, they've got to hang something on the fight, haven't they? They've got to convince everybody to part with the money, big money, for this fight.
Gareth A. Davis has been hyping on Ngannou up for 2 months.
It's absolute. I remember when I got when I was on Facebook back in the day, and I got sick and tired of hearing people say that Conor McGregor had a puncher's chance against Floyd Mayweather. And I did a post and I said, he doesn't have a puncher's chance. He's got no chance whatsoever. And I said, if the likes of Margarito and Cotto and Canelo and Mosley can hit Floyd Mayweather full on, flush, repeatedly, and can't do the damage, what chance has Conor McGregor got of knocking Floyd Mayweather out? None.
Wilder couldn't knock Tyson out, could he?
Exactly. So if Wilder can't knock Tyson out, and Klitschko can't knock Tyson out, and Klitschko had some hammers. He had some hammer fists. He did catch Tyson, not a lot.
Klitschko were connecting late on, wasn't he?
Exactly. If these guys can't knock Tyson Fury out with 10-ounce gloves, then Ngannou doesn't have a puncher's chance. He's got no chance. And I'll tell you, I was watching him on the physique, and I was watching how he was profusely sweating, just doing a few simple body bag combinations. The guys have a feeling it's really staged, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's going to be, Fury's going to carry him until he gets bored. It's going to be an embarrassingly one-sided fight. I think it might end very, very quickly.
Well,
I mean, Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor, I mean, he didn't even get into like second gear, did he, until about 3-4 rounds. And if you remember, Conor McGregor was hyperventilating in the corner after 3 rounds. He was blowing. It's because you're in another man's arena, you're fighting another man's discipline, and you're choosing to fight the best at the best. And Ngannou will be exhausted just following Tyson Fury around and throwing a few punches. He'll be absolutely exhausted. He'll be, I'm not going to say it's a 1-round fight. I'm going to say the fight lasts until Tyson Fury just decides he's going to end the fight. It'll be ridiculously one-sided. But they've got to try and sell the fight. But I don't know why, because Tyson Fury sells Tyson Fury, don't he? People paid to see him against Chisora. 60-odd thousand people went to see him against Chisora in the cold. The guy's a big, big star. So we don't need useless rubbish about punch machines. And I hate when the media keep repeating this stuff. If trained eyes and people who have been around the sport of boxing can't tell just by watching a guy move that the guy can't box, I don't know what to say.
Well, people are backing him at bookies, aren't they, on Garno?
No, they tell me they're not.
Yeah.
Mind you, you're probably getting ridiculous odds, aren't you? But I mean, I think if Ngannou was to beat Fury, first of all, you've got to say how's he going to beat him, haven't you? We just said Tyson's got a good chin. His recovery powers are just brilliant. So
freaking for recovery, isn't he?
How does Ngannou, if he cracks Tyson, he's not going to string together more than 2 shots, 3 shots. How the hell does Ngannou? Well, he doesn't outbox Tyson, does he?
No.
Tyson's huge. Tyson's a 19.5 stone, 20 stone monster. He's huge. So he's not going to be bullying Tyson Fury around. This isn't MMA. This isn't grappling. He's not going to be bullying Tyson Fury.
It'd be food and drink.
How the hell?
It'd be like.
I'll tell you what we've not seen, Russell. Sorry, I'll tell you what we've not seen. If you remember when Conor McGregor, we saw very, very, very brief clips of him sparring, didn't we?
Yeah.
Against
Paulie Malignaggi.
Paulie Malignaggi was ancient at the time. But we saw very, very quick clips. And then what we saw during the public workout, when people had already splashed the cash out, we saw him shadowbox at the public workout. It became, even though he was a good striker in the UFC, it became really clear that Conor McGregor's boxing was pretty poor. And I know he had a very brief amateur career when he was young, but we're talking him against Floyd Mayweather. His boxing was pretty poor. And I think we're going to see Ngannou tomorrow at the workout. And I think you're going to see very, very little handwork because it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be absolutely embarrassing. There'll be a bit of skipping, a bit of stretching, because the guy hasn't got hands. And if anybody thinks I'm talking rubbish, then you don't know what you're looking at, because you just have to watch him to the way he throws his right hand. He doesn't turn the right hand over properly. He's not getting full extension on it. His shoulders are too square. This nonsense about him being the biggest puncher ever, and it's on record. Who comes out with this shite? It's shite.
Spencer Brown.
No chance.
Spencer Brown's admitted this evening that he was speaking to Liam, main man at Talksport, and they want Simon Jordan gone before what he said about Conor Benn, Eddie Hearn, Tyson Fury, John Fury. and it's not good for their business, and they don't want to work with him moving forward. So,
well, this is 2023, isn't this? Is cancel culture. We cancel people out, don't we? If anyone says the truth or their version of the truth or what they believe to be the truth, and it's not aligned to the narrative, we cancel them. So
can they cancel me?
we can't cancel you, and I think that's the beauty of it, because ultimately, you're not getting a salary. You know, you're not getting a salary by TalkSport or whatever, and you don't need Tyson Fury.
I don't really need Porky's Corner, do I really, Julian? Do I really?
That's the thing. So that's why ultimately, when you know, you'll do whatever you have to do to put steam on the table. You know, we always have a joke, but this doesn't pay your living, does it, mate? No. People think you might earn this much and that much. They've got no idea. Yeah, this doesn't pay your living, and you're like me. You'll do what you have to do to feed your kids. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And ultimately, some of these people, these presenters and these pundits, they have to feed their kids as well. But their only route, you'll do whatever you have to do.
But to cancel me, you see, right? Sorry for butting in. To cancel me, it's different to them. They can go above. They can go to that limb. It's like Tony Bellew, right? I'm not sure if I've said this before, and I'll correct somebody that mentioned it about Daniel Kinahan. Daniel Kinahan, a few years ago, rung Dennis Hobson. So I'm going to clear this up for the guy who keeps emailing because he's obviously confused. Kinahan rung Dennis up, blah, blah, blah. Can you have a word with Russell? He's put Spencer Fearon in the Helmets of the Month, and Spencer didn't like it, right? So Dennis had a word with me, and I went, not a chance is that coming down, right? Don't forget, I never took it down when Peter Fury was in it, and I had to go see him. You even saw the intro, didn't you, Peter? What helmets for? What's all this? And I just told him straight, and Peter went, it's a load of shit, and give me an intro and said, subscribe to Porky's Corner, didn't he? I've always got on with Peter. But he was like, why am I in that? You know what I mean? And just asking me, basically, and laughed it off, took it on chin like a man, yeah? Peter Fury. You're not one of them crybabies.
Well, your rules are you get the votes, you're in.
You get the votes, you're in. That's what I said to Peter. Obviously, my arse was twitching a bit. And he was sat there with his lads, and they weren't saying no, and they were all bang on with me after his dad went, it's all a load of shit, Russ, anyway. Right? Spencer Fearon didn't like it. So I give my number to Dennis, and we spoke, me and Spencer Fearon. We know the rest. But Spencer could have come to me personally, and not had to do that. But because he got him to ring Dennis, and Dennis was like coming to my office. He's gone, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're gonna mess everything up." I said, "Listen, they've had the votes, they're in, and that's it." But Tyson Fury rung Dennis up and asked Dennis to have a word, and Dennis's reply, I can't do out with him, is crackers. Oh, cheers for that, then. But it didn't stop me putting billboards up and backing Mickey Theo, did it? So they can't cancel me. Oh, other one who rung, Tony Bellew, because I said he'd never beat a champion. He was telling Dennis it's upset his lad. I said to Dennis, "Oh, right, what's that? We're on Twitter, aren't you? We're on YouTube then." So I took that down like a prat. You know what I mean? Just to keep peace. He was the first one to complain, in Bellew. But listen, they've got to take it on chin. Have you seen how Bellew conducts himself?
But this is the thing. These are tough men. These are good fighters. These are hard men in what is
hard men.
And that's it. And it's a brutal sport. But you know,
Spencer Fearon's a tough guy. Listen, I've seen some fight. Listen, he'd have smashed me to bits in the fight. I've seen him.
Oh, Spencer will be able to fight.
I said to Chris Smedley, "What do you reckon?" I'll get stuck into him, Chris. He says, "Look, it's not a grappling street. He'll pepper your head." Do you know what I mean? And he told me straight. But Spencer didn't like being. He didn't like being in helmets. Well, Peter Fury didn't have a problem, Spencer, with it. So I don't do helmets anyway now. There's just people complaining.
What I don't understand, Russell, or maybe I'm just a little bit naive at times, but these people week in, week out make money from being pundits, from having podcasts, from giving an opinion. Their opinion is not always glowing. Their opinion is not always, waxing lyrical. Sometimes they say things that upset people, but you can't give your opinion. And I don't know why that is. And I always disarm people when people say, "Oh, did you ever do as a boxer yourself?" I was amateur. I was pretty average, and it disarms people. But we're allowed to have an opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion, and you can agree with it and you can like it, or you don't. But you can't cancel someone. We're not, we're not in a communist state, are we? We're not going to be like taken underground and shot. We're allowed to have an opinion, as long as what you're saying is an objective opinion based around boxing, and not personal about someone's family or someone's children or slanderous lies that's going to get someone in trouble at work or in the personal life. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah, but they can't go above my head, can they, to cancel me, you see? So I have to put up with daily threats, don't I?
Well, you get some horrendous threats, don't you? I mean,
oh my God.
I don't know. I mean, I'm expecting one day. I mean, I've told you, I've had a few people know me anyway and recognise me.
On my back, Julian, because the people putting letters in, I've had all sorts of issues up there.
I'm expecting at some point, Russell, I'm going to get challenged by someone for they don't like what I've said on Porky's Corner, and I just say, well, tell me what I've said and tell me what's not true about it. Tell me what's wrong about it, and let's have a debate about it. Do people have to, want to roll around on the floor with people and threaten people? Just have a debate about it. But
can't have a debate when people are 100 and know on hard road and they're having 100 gram bare knuckles and they don't even know bloke off. Oh, I forgot his name, but I took 100 bags off him. Oh, right. Now, next question. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm disappointed with Coogan Cassius because he had all the Tyson for 56 minutes and all he did was tickle his feet.
But
frightened, scared.
But I was going to say, I've got to be fair to Coogan, as we've just said. Coogan's got to earn a living, right? He's got a certain lifestyle, and he has to tread. It's not the easiest balance to do.
He's good at his job.
But I've got to be honest. Tyson, I thought his body language was very, very cold during that interview, and there was an element of you be careful what you say. And I don't care how tough you are. That's got to be intimidating when you got the best heavyweight boxer on the planet sat in front of you who's in a bad mood. It's got to be intimidating. So I'm not going to give Coogan a
found that though, isn't he? He can say, yeah, I agree with you, Tyson. But what do you think to them people that say that you're not an all-time great and you've only had 4 wins that you can jump up and down about?
But then Coogan's out. Coogan's banned from the next big event, then, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what happens. And as you just said, you don't rely on Porky's Corner to survive and to eat. And I certainly don't. But these guys, to some extent, do rely on what they do because it's the only identity and it's the only income they've got now is through boxing. Yours is not through boxing. Mine's not through boxing. I've lost thousands and thousands and thousands in bloody boxing. So what I say is purely what I think to be true. I think Tyson Fury, in summary, best heavyweight on the planet, best heavyweight of his generation. He's clearly got issues with being bipolar. I think that's been well documented now. I thought the Netflix series was absolutely brilliant. There are elements of him I think is fantastic. There are elements of him I like, but they are bullies. They are bullies, and he's a bully, and the family are bullies, and that's the truth, mate.
Well, it's not good, is it?
I think we've got part 2 coming up, Russell.
Yeah, we'll click on to part 2. Pop,
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for liking and subscribing.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.